Okay, so this video I would like to go over how we might want to look at a different outcome variable. So in the last videos, we were looking at this 140-day mortality rate, or the total number deceased by day 140. The other thing we might want to look at is an outcome of this. So not just what's the number of people, but what's the effect of losing that number of people not just in terms of the human cost, which is terrible, but is there some other way we want to measure it? So one thing that is often discussed is what's the economic impact of different policy choices. So I wanted to show you what that might look like and how you would do some sort of calculation around that. And this is going to be super simple. If you're doing this, I'm just going to show you a basic way to do it, and you will add complexity to it. But I just want to show you how you would enter that into the model. So in order to measure something about the economy, we need to know what the economy of the state is, because we're looking at Massachusetts. I Googled Massachusetts GDP. It's $446 billion a year, roughly. So if we want to incorporate this into our system, let's put in Massachusetts annual GDP as another parameter. And what was it, 466? Is that right? No, 446. Okay, 446, 476. Let's see. Yeah, 476. Bunch of zeros because we're talking about billions. Okay. So that is our Massachusetts annual GDP. So if we want to do a very, very rough back of the envelope calculation, we would want to know how much each individual is contributing to this GDP per day, because our time units are days here. So let's first calculate what our total population is. Okay, so the total population is a function of your susceptible population plus your infected population plus your recovered population plus your deceased population. So this should always sum to 6.9 million, because someone is in one of those four categories. You're either susceptible, infected, recovered, or deceased. So if I double click on this, double left click, just scroll down, and it should always be this 6.9 million. But you know what? I don't want the total population because the deceased have to be subtracted, actually. So I want to put a minus sign there because they're no longer in your population. So when I do that, yeah, that makes more sense. So as people are still living, they're in the susceptible, infected, or recovered population. If you're deceased, you exit the population. So yeah, total population is a minus sign there for deceased. And so as we scroll down, there you see our population has dropped from 6.9 million to 6.8 million, roughly. Okay, so the other thing we need to do then is to, over here, come up with, so that's our total GDP. So we want to do GDP per person per day. Per person per day. And so this is going to be a function of your total GDP divided by your number of people. There. And for day, it's 365 days a year. So this is what I'm saying. I'm going to do it super simple. If you're doing it, weekends obviously have less GDP than normal. You'll have to decide if that's something you need to include. So divided by 360. Okay, so each person roughly produces, and this is a lot of zeros, so I'm going to go up here and get rid of some of those. $179, $180, we'll round it up, of GDP per person per day. And like I said, the 6.9 million population is not the working population. So if you're going to look into this, I'd expect you to actually look up what the working population is and be more thoughtful about that part of it. But I'm just doing a rough calculation here. This includes people that are either too young to work or too old to work and not in the workforce. So they are not, while they're maybe doing a lot of work, it's not compensated as part of the GDP. So there we go for that. So to do a very, very rough calculation of what the economic impact of different policies might be, we want to multiply the number of people that are in the total population here by this GDP per person per day. So if I do that here, I'm going to go, so we'll call this economic yeah, economic GDP per day. Okay, and so if we do this, total population times your GDP per person per day, hit enter. And that's the total daily economic output of this population. If we go all the way down there, whoops. You know what I didn't do? Is I didn't put in my $sign. So I always want it to be referencing B28. And if I scroll this down, there we go. So that is economic output per person per day. Over here, I'm going to drag this down a little more because we're getting stuck with space here. So let's look at the total GDP at day 140. And so this is going to be the sum of this column. And if you click in V, and then on a Mac, if you hit Shift Command down arrow, that's going to ripple across your whole column there. It's going to go until there's no more data there. And then I'm going to do Shift close parenthesis and enter. Okay, so you can see your GDP, and I'm going to format this. It's in scientific format right now. I'm going to put it in numbers. Places, use thousand separator. We aren't concerned about cents. So it's showing like that because there's not enough room in the column. We're going to increase column width. Okay, so total GDP at there is at day 140 is $173 billion. And so if we have no infection, to show you what the base GDP would look like, we do aggressive social distancing at day 1. We have 0 mortality rate, we have 0 infections, and we've got a total GDP of 174 billion. If we increase, if we actually have infections, let's say it's a significant infection, I'm going to put the intervention day too late. I'm going to put day 40. And you see that we've decreased our total GDP from, go back here, 174 to 167. So anyway, that is a way to quickly show you how to add an additional outcome to your model here. So you're adding a new variable there that you're interested in looking at. And again, that is way too simple. If you're going to be looking at that, I want you to think about like how many people in this population are actually the working population, how the economy is not just necessarily a linear function, but if a bunch of businesses close, they may not reopen. So if you've got significant mortality rate like this, is there a certain threshold that when you get past a certain point, or if you have date of intervention lasting, the number of days of intervention lasting too long, is that something that is going to have a step function sort of effect on businesses where they can survive for, let's say, 2 weeks, but if you close it for 3 weeks, the businesses simply run out of money and they have to shutter. So anyway, there's a lot of complexity to explore there, but that's how you might enter something like that into the model. All right, and that is it for now. I can't promise that there won't be more videos. There might be, but that is a good, I hope, overview of kind of how you can add some complexity to your model and how you can start investigating your different research questions. All right, so good luck, and you may or may not see another video from me soon.